Welcome back to our channel, Coin History Vault. These Lincoln penny 1-cent coins make people rich. Let's find out why. Don't miss out one of these. Who know a sigil coin make you rich? Let's start this. Coin 1. Today we are talking about a small coin that many people still ignore, a coin that quietly sits in old jars, drawers, and forgotten collections, yet carries a story that every coin lover should hear carefully. This is the United States of America Lincoln 1-cent penny dated 1966. At first glance it looks simple, ordinary, even common. But when you slow down and truly understand this coin, you begin to realize why collectors pay close attention to it and why some examples are far more valuable than most people ever imagine. The 1966 Lincoln penny was produced during a very interesting period in American coin history. The country was facing coin shortages, rising metal prices, and big changes in minting policies. Because of this, the United States Mint made an unusual decision. No mint marks were placed on coins during this year. That means whether the penny was struck in Philadelphia or San Francisco, it carries no letter under the date. This single decision alone makes the year unique and adds mystery for collectors who love understanding how history shaped everyday money. The design shows Abraham Lincoln on the front, strong and calm, just as he has appeared on the cent since 1909. But look closer. On well-preserved examples, you can still see fine details in Lincoln's hair, coat, and facial features. On the back, the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly. In higher-grade coins, the steps of the memorial and even the tiny statue of Lincoln inside can be clearly seen. These details matter greatly to collectors, because condition is everything. Most 1966 pennies were struck using a copper-based alloy, giving the coin its rich reddish tone when new. Over time, many have turned brown due to circulation and environmental exposure. However, coins that retain their original red color are far scarcer today. Collectors often describe pennies as red, red-brown, or brown, and this difference can mean a huge change in value. What truly excites collectors are the errors and unusual varieties found on some 1966 Lincoln cents. One of the most talked about is the double die error. This occurs when the coin die receives a misaligned impression during production, causing doubling on letters or numbers. On rare examples, you can see clear doubling on the word liberty, on the motto "In God We Trust," or on the date itself. These coins stand out immediately to trained eyes and are highly sought after. Another fascinating error involves off-center strikes. These happen when the coin blank is not properly aligned during striking. Part of the design may be missing, while another part appears stretched or distorted. As long as the date is visible, collectors consider these errors extremely desirable. Each off-center coin is unique, making it a one-of-a-kind piece of mint history. There are also broad strike errors where the coin spreads wider than normal because the retaining collar failed during striking. These coins look larger and flatter than regular pennies and often surprise people when they compare them side by side with a normal cent. Die cracks, cut errors, and clipped planchets are also found on some 1966 pennies, adding to their appeal among error collectors. Condition plays a massive role in determining how special a coin truly is. A heavily circulated penny may only hold sentimental value. But an uncirculated example with sharp details, strong luster, and minimal marks becomes something completely different. Collectors use professional grading services to evaluate these coins, and high-grade examples can transform an ordinary-looking penny into a serious collector item. For coin lovers, the 1966 Lincoln cent represents more than just money. It represents a time of change in America, a moment when even the smallest coin carried the weight of economic decisions and historical context. Searching for rare examples becomes a treasure hunt, a journey that rewards patience, knowledge, and attention to detail. If you have old pennies, take a moment to look closely. Check the date, study the letters, examine the edges, and look for anything unusual. That simple penny might hold a story worth far more than its face value. Coin collecting is not just about wealth, it is about discovery, history, and the excitement of finding something special where others see nothing. Now let us talk about value, because this is the part everyone waits for. A normal circulated 1966 Lincoln 1-cent penny is generally worth only a small premium over face value, often just a few cents. An uncirculated example with strong original color can be worth several dollars. High-grade red examples certified by professional grading services can reach values in the tens of dollars. Error coins are where things become truly exciting. Double die examples, strong off-center strikes, and major mint errors have sold at auction for amounts ranging from several $100s to several $1,000s, depending on condition, strength of the error, and collector demand. Coin 2, a coin that was born during a time of change, confusion, and quiet experimentation at the United States Mint. This is the United States of America Lincoln 1-cent penny dated 1967. It may look ordinary at first glance, but for collectors and coin lovers, this penny carries hidden details, rare possibilities, and exciting value potential that make it worth listening to very carefully. The year 1967 belongs to a special era in American coinage. During the mid-1960s, the country was facing serious coin shortages. Metal prices were rising, people were hoarding coins, and the mint had to take unusual steps to keep money flowing. One of the most important decisions was the removal of mint marks. Just like 1965 and 1966, the 1967 Lincoln penny was struck without any mint mark. This makes every example feel a little mysterious, because you cannot tell where it was made just by looking at it. The front of the coin features the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, calm and dignified. By this time, the design had been refined over decades, and when struck sharply, the details are beautiful. Look closely at Lincoln's hair above the ear, the sharpness of the jawline, and the coat near the shoulder. These small details are critical for collectors because they separate common worn coins from premium quality examples. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial still dominates the design. In high-quality coins, the columns are crisp and evenly spaced, and with a strong strike, you can even see the tiny seated statue of Lincoln inside the memorial. Many circulated coins have lost these details, which is why fully detailed examples are much harder to find today. Most 1967 pennies were made from a copper-based alloy that gives the coin its warm reddish glow when new. Over time, circulation turns many of these coins brown. However, pennies that have retained their original red color are significantly scarcer. Collectors carefully classify them as red, red-brown, or brown, and this color difference alone can dramatically change a coin's desirability. What truly transforms a normal 1967 penny into something special are mint errors and striking varieties. One of the most exciting is the double die error. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin was misaligned during its creation, resulting in visible doubling on letters or numbers. Some examples show doubling on the date, on the word liberty, or on the motto "In God We Trust." These errors are not damage, they are true mint mistakes, and collectors prize them highly. Another rare and fascinating category is off-center strikes. These happen when the blank planchet is not positioned correctly during striking. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing and part is stretched outward. As long as the date is visible, collectors consider these coins extremely desirable, especially when the off-center effect is dramatic. Broad strikes are another error found on some 1967 pennies. In these cases, the coin spreads wider than normal because the collar that holds it in place failed. These coins look unusually large and flat and immediately stand out when compared to a regular penny. Clipped planchets, die cracks, and cut errors also exist from this year, each telling a unique story of what went wrong at the mint. Condition is everything in the world of coin collecting. A worn penny that passed through countless hands may be common. But a well-preserved uncirculated example with strong luster, sharp details, and minimal marks becomes something entirely different. Coins that have never entered circulation are especially important for this year, because many were heavily used during the shortage period. For collectors, the 1967 Lincoln cent is more than copper and zinc. It is a symbol of an era when even the smallest denomination reflected economic pressure and government response. Searching rolls, jars, and collections for a standout example becomes an adventure filled with anticipation and discovery. Before we end, let us talk about value. A typical circulated 1967 Lincoln 1-cent penny is usually worth only a few cents. An uncirculated example can be worth several dollars depending on color and condition. High-grade red examples certified by professional grading services have reached values in the range of several tens of dollars. Major error coins such as strong double dies, off-center strikes, and dramatic mint errors have achieved auction prices ranging from several $100s to several $1,000s, depending on rarity, eye appeal, and demand among collectors. Coin 3. This is the United States of America Lincoln 1-cent penny dated 1975 with the D mint mark. A small copper coin that carries hidden history, collector excitement, and surprising potential that every coin lover should listen to very carefully. The 1975 D Lincoln cent was struck at the Denver Mint during a time when American coinage was stable on the surface, but full of quiet varieties and minting surprises beneath. By this period, millions of pennies were produced each year, and because of such high production numbers, most people assume these coins can never be rare. That assumption is exactly what makes this coin so interesting. Rarity is not always about low mintage. Sometimes rarity is about condition, errors, and small details that most people overlook. On the front of the coin, we see Abraham Lincoln, a design that had already become deeply familiar to the American public. But collectors know that familiarity does not mean uniformity. Look closely at Lincoln's portrait on high-quality examples. The hair detail above the ear, the separation in the beard, and the sharpness of the bow tie are all clues to a strong strike. Weakly struck coins lose these features, making sharply detailed examples far more desirable. The D mint mark below the date tells us this coin was produced in Denver. For collectors, the presence of a mint mark adds another layer of interest. Denver struck pennies in enormous quantities, but not all were struck equally well. Coins with full detail and clean surfaces stand out immediately to experienced eyes. The reverse features the Lincoln Memorial, a design that rewards close inspection. On well-preserved 1975 D pennies, the memorial columns are crisp, the steps are visible, and with enough clarity, the tiny seated statue of Lincoln inside the memorial can be seen. This level of detail is uncommon in circulated coins, which is why collectors pay close attention to uncirculated examples. Most 1975 D pennies were struck using a copper alloy that gives them a rich tone when new. Over time, many have turned brown due to handling and exposure. Coins that still show original red color are much scarcer today. Collectors carefully categorize these coins as red, red-brown, or brown, and this single factor can greatly influence desirability and value. Where excitement truly begins is in the world of mint errors and varieties. One of the most sought-after errors is the double die. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin was misaligned during its creation, resulting in noticeable doubling on letters or numbers. On some 1975 D pennies, collectors have found doubling on the date, on the word Liberty, or on the motto In God We Trust. These are not scratches or damage, but genuine mint errors that happened before the coin was ever struck. Another fascinating error is the off-center strike. These coins were struck when the blank was not properly positioned, causing part of the design to be missing while another part spreads outward. When the date and mint mark remain visible, these coins become extremely collectible. Each off-center penny is unique, making it a true one-of-a-kind piece. Broad strike errors also appear among 1975 D cents. These occur when the retaining collar fails, allowing the coin to expand outward during striking. The result is a penny that looks wider and flatter than normal, instantly catching the attention of collectors. Die cracks, cuds, clipped planchets, and struck-through errors have also been discovered from this year, each telling a small story of what went wrong inside the mint. Condition is everything when it comes to value. A heavily worn penny may only be interesting as a teaching example. But an uncirculated coin with strong luster, minimal marks, and sharp detail becomes a serious collectible. Coins that were saved early and protected from circulation are far scarcer today than most people realize. For coin lovers, the 1975 D Lincoln cent represents the thrill of the hunt. It reminds us that even modern coins can hide surprises, and that knowledge is the key to turning an ordinary pocket coin into a meaningful collectible. Now let us talk about worth and value. A normal circulated 1975 D Lincoln 1-cent penny is usually worth only a few cents. An uncirculated example can be worth several dollars depending on color and condition. High-grade red examples certified by professional grading services have sold for amounts in the range of several tens of dollars. Strong double die examples, dramatic off-center strikes, and major mint errors have achieved real market and auction prices ranging from several $100s to several $1,000s, depending on rarity, eye appeal, and collector demand. Coin 4, the United States of America Lincoln 1-cent penny dated 1980 with the D mint mark may appear ordinary at first glance, just a simple copper-colored coin, one of billions, but beneath that familiar face lies a world of mystery, variety, and excitement that every coin collector should listen to very carefully. Because this little coin, when you understand it deeply, can tell a story worth much more than 1 cent. The 1980 D Lincoln cent was struck at the Denver Mint during a period when the United States Mint was producing enormous quantities of coins for circulation. But even in such high production, not every coin comes out perfectly. And that's where things get interesting for collectors. Mistakes, varieties, and special conditions can turn what seems like an ordinary penny into a collectible treasure. Let's start with the design. The front features the timeless portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, which has been on the penny since 1909. The 1980 D version shows Lincoln facing right, with the word Liberty to his left, and the date and mint mark to his right. Above Lincoln's head sits the motto "In God We Trust," the same phrase that has appeared on American coinage for generations. The D beneath the date tells us that this coin was made in Denver, Colorado. Millions rolled off the presses there, but only a handful were struck under ideal conditions, perfectly centered, deeply struck, with clean fields and glowing luster. These coins, known as gems among collectors, are the ones everyone hunts for, because even though they are modern, they show off the best craftsmanship the mint could produce. The reverse of the coin features the Lincoln Memorial, one of the most recognizable designs in U.S. coinage history. In high-grade coins, the steps of the memorial are sharply defined, the columns are straight and even, and inside, with a magnifier, you can even spot the tiny seated statue of Lincoln himself. But in coins struck from worn dies or weak presses, these details blur or disappear completely. That difference in detail can separate a penny worth only 1 cent from one worth real money. Now let's talk about what makes the 1980 D penny truly fascinating: the errors and varieties. These are the tiny differences that happen during the minting process, often by accident, but which now drive collectors wild. Point 1 of the most famous is the double die obverse error. This happens when the die that strikes the coin gets a slightly misaligned impression during manufacturing, causing certain parts of the design to appear doubled. On 1980 D pennies, careful eyes sometimes notice doubling on the letters of Liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," or even on the date itself. These are not scratches or wear marks, they are true doubling, and they dramatically increase collector interest. Then there are off-center strikes, where the coin blank wasn't placed properly in the press. The result is a penny where part of the design is missing or shifted to one side, leaving a crescent of blank metal on the opposite edge. The more off-center it is, as long as the date and mint mark are still visible, the more valuable and rare the coin becomes. Each one is completely unique. Another sought-after mistake is the broad strike error. This happens when the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking fails, allowing the metal to spread outward. The coin looks larger and flatter than normal, often with a smooth rim instead of a raised edge. These coins immediately grab the attention of experienced collectors because they show a clear minting malfunction. Sometimes collectors also find clipped planchets, where the coin blank was cut incorrectly, leaving a crescent-shaped missing section along the rim. Or die cracks and cut errors, where the die itself was damaged or filled with grease, causing raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin. Each of these tells a story about the mechanical process of making coins, and for collectors, these imperfections are pure gold. But rarity isn't only about mistakes, it's also about condition. Coins that have circulated for years lose their luster, pick up scratches, and develop dull brown tones. Those that were never spent, the uncirculated coins, retain the original bright red copper color that the mint intended. Collectors classify these coins based on color: red, red-brown, and brown. A full red example from 1980 D, with sharp details and no spots or marks, can command impressive value because they've become much harder to find over time. For the serious numismatist, the thrill lies in searching. It's the excitement of going through an old jar of pennies, a forgotten drawer, or a bag of coins from the bank, not knowing that one of those pieces might have an error worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Many collectors have stories of discovering treasures in places they least expected. That's the beauty of the Lincoln penny. It keeps you looking, learning, and hoping. The 1980 penny also represents a special time in coin history. It was one of the last few years before the composition change that came in 1982, when the mint replaced the mostly copper alloy with a zinc core coated in copper. So the 1980 penny still holds that classic pre-zinc weight and tone, a nostalgic feel that collectors truly appreciate. For coin lovers, this coin connects history, art, and craftsmanship in a way no paper money ever could. It's a piece of American heritage that fits in your palm, one that has survived decades of circulation yet still has stories to tell. Now, let's talk about value, the part everyone waits for. A normal circulated 1980 Lincoln 1-cent penny is usually worth just its face value or a few cents to collectors. However, high-grade uncirculated examples, especially those with bright red color, can be worth several dollars each. A perfectly preserved red gem example graded by a professional service can reach values in the tens of dollars, but the real excitement comes from the error coins. A strong double die example or a dramatic off-center strike can fetch hundreds of dollars in collector markets. Exceptional error examples and rare high-grade pieces have achieved real market and auction prices of several $100s to several $1,000s, depending on the strength of the error, overall condition, and collector demand. Coin 5, we are exploring one of the most important and exciting years in the entire history of the Lincoln 1-cent penny. A year that changed American coinage forever and created confusion, curiosity, and incredible opportunities for collectors. This is the United States of America Lincoln 1-cent penny dated 1982. At first glance it looks just like many other pennies, but in reality, this single year hides more varieties, surprises, and rare discoveries than almost any other modern cent. If you are a coin lover, listen very carefully, because this is the kind of penny that turns ordinary people into lucky collectors. The year 1982 marks a major turning point for the United States Mint. Rising copper prices forced the mint to make a historic decision. For the first time since the Lincoln penny was introduced, the metal composition was changed. Instead of being mostly copper, many pennies were now made with a zinc core coated in copper. What makes this year special is that both copper and zinc pennies were produced at the same time. This alone creates excitement, because two coins with the same date can be completely different in weight, feel, and value. A copper 1982 penny feels heavier in the hand, solid and rich, while a zinc version feels noticeably lighter. Many people spent these coins without ever realizing the difference. But collectors know that identifying the correct metal is the first step in unlocking this coin's potential. Adding even more mystery, 1982 pennies were struck with different styles of numbers in the date. Some have a large date style, while others show a small date style. These subtle differences are easy to miss unless you look closely, but they are extremely important. Certain combinations of metal type and date style are far scarcer than others, and this is where true rarity begins. The design itself remains the classic Lincoln portrait on the front. Abraham Lincoln appears calm and dignified, with liberty to the left and the date to the right. On well-struck examples, you can clearly see sharp hair detail, strong facial features, and clean lettering. Weak strikes lose these details, which makes fully detailed coins far more desirable to collectors. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands tall. High-quality coins show clear columns, sharp steps, and even the tiny seated statue of Lincoln inside the memorial. Many circulated examples are worn flat, which is why uncirculated pieces are much harder to find today. Now let us talk about errors, because this is where 1982 pennies truly shine. One of the most famous and valuable discoveries is the copper small date variety. This coin combines the copper composition with the small date design, and it was not supposed to exist in large numbers. For years, collectors searched rolls of pennies hoping to find one. It has become one of the most legendary modern penny varieties. Other exciting errors include double die coins, where parts of the design appear doubled due to mistakes during die creation. On some 1982 pennies, doubling can be seen on the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." These are genuine mint errors and are highly collectible. Off-center strikes are also found from this year. These coins were struck when the blank was not properly aligned, causing part of the design to be missing. As long as the date remains visible, these coins are extremely desirable. Broad strikes, where the coin spreads outward due to collar failure, clipped planchets with missing metal, and die cracks that create raised lines all add to the excitement of this year. Condition is critical. A heavily worn 1982 penny may only be interesting for study. But an uncirculated example with strong luster and original color becomes a serious collectible. Copper examples are especially important because they represent the final chapter of the traditional copper penny era. For collectors, 1982 is more than just a date. It is a puzzle, a challenge, and a treasure hunt. Every penny from this year deserves a second look. Jars, drawers, and old collections may still hide rare varieties waiting to be discovered by someone patient enough to look closely. Now let us talk about real value and worth. A normal circulated 1982 zinc penny is usually worth only face value. A circulated copper example can be worth a small premium. Uncirculated copper pennies can be worth several dollars depending on condition. High-grade examples certified by professional grading services can reach values in the tens of dollars. Rare varieties, especially the copper small-date penny, have achieved real market and auction prices in the range of several $1,000s, making this one of the most exciting Lincoln cents for collectors today.